das nicht gewollt. I stopped talking to a Bocher, roaring him up for not being in Seder. Right, so we started with the cloud. Teres was Mizbech HaPnimi. V'ilo the Karbonis, therein was Mizbech HaChitzein, and those were two Inyanim, Chitzein Yisalev, or Pnimi Yisalev. The Karbonis Mizbech HaChitzein, Inyanim was Chitzein years, Halev. And we saw that was Yahweh Shal Pitan Vadas. V'ilo Teres Mizbech HaPnimi, Inyane was Pnimi Saleh. So we began with a view B'inyan Avishal Pitan Gadas and the Aveda B'chitanias Halev. And we saw that was Davki in the Lakus Bo B'Islapsis B'Ilamez, and there was Zini from Ansogya as Bonin as Bezer. And we went into Arichas when you get to the Koichas, how the Odom can be misbeinen in Koichas and Nefesh and the Yachas one to the other, even though it's not a Yediyas HaMatzias, it's only a Yediyas HaMahus. Nonetheless, he can Davki be closer to Koichas HaNefesh, HaGluyim. It's possible for him to have a Yediyah, Mufaretas, in our upon what we call the Matzias HaMahus. And from Madrega to Madrega in the levels of the Nefesh, that helps him eventually, we saw in the Nimshal, to appreciate the Eilamas, Hanivroim, the Indian from Eilamas, Bria, Yitzir, Vasiya, and including Atzilas, because we saw that the levels of Moichin, Midas, and the Inyanim from Dibor and Maisa, or they are connected the Indian of Eilamas, the Abba Eilamas. And we saw that that's shaykh to the Esser Spheres, how each Oilam is Makabel Be'ika from a Sphera Musuyemas in the Esser Spheres. And Alidei is Bonanis from the Koiches Anefesh in the Nimshach Araya Island, the Spheres Yainus, then he can appreciate the Oiven or the Chayes and the Oiven Gilead Chayes and Bamera the Voida and Bamera the Beetle of that particular Oilam. And we saw that according to that Soga of his Bonanas, how it is Bechol Oilam V'Oilam Lafi Madrakosei, then that brings him to an Avoida and a Beetle which is Ayin of Oiven or that Oilam Mamish. And we saw that the Diuk Haloshim was that first of all he takes all the Inyanim how they are and the Mishalim, they're not just dumb Mishalim, the Mitis Inyanim, Eishaim Benefesh, and then he takes the Nimshal and Maila, and he appreciates that it is in the Indian Oilamas, Abamera, Jiz Avoida, and Bamiyuchad we saw the Dogish was on the Indian Abit. It becomes mamish but even azeh, and we saw lamar b'sapela that even includes l'choradin of an atzilas. The b'shas is bonenes v'avona v'soge in the oifen of the gilif and koich hachma and how that is in spheres of chachma l'mayla. Then he can come to at least a what you might call a oifen of appreciation or his yachases to the Indian Abitel, how it is in Atzilas. And oifen avidos is according to that particular Abitel in that particular oilam that his bonus takes him to mamish. We saw the word mamish that he's botel to Alakus. And his oifen aveda becomes shy to the even of little Aveda how it is in that particular oilam. So we will mark a little bit in that Indian that the philosophy said that the mensch can be mamish b'mochim shemachshavte shalodam shamu nimta if he's tokea machshavti v'inyonim elu, and we saw that the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe is not to stam, or tokea machshavti b'choizek. The Alter Rebbe says in Perek Gimel that you mamish become your shayach there. That's where you are. That's where you become. And here it's even more pnimim is there that his whole avodah and the way he becomes botel to Elakus, we have to say to Rotzen Avaya is boivin kozeh. How it is boilam asah. But that would be a pure in, we see the great beetle that certain Hasidim reached, that they were just bottle not only to Rotzen Avaya, but to the Rotzen of Yaminu Bashem, of Moshe Avdei, they were bottled to the Rabbeim, the B'chinas Beetle Gomer, the Kol Inyoneim, and Kol Protei Chayim, were just totally megamre to Rotzen Avaya, how it expressed itself to the Rotzen Adar Kidur Mafrosa, the Chassidim Hagdolim, V'gam Chassidim HaBeinonim V'Aktanim, Taki Chassidim Hagdolim. Omer Lefise, we saw Musa Haskell Nifla in the union of Klolos Havana, what it means Avodah. What's the title of it? Hashem. V'gam Yovin, after that brackets, you have a Yashik, Ekshakol Madrega Tachtoina, Nimshakol, Madrega Elyoina. Ekshu Shom Be'ilui Yoisa. So now there's a further step. He can also be Masig, how every lower level, that can even be a lower oilom, but it can also be different madregas in, we could suggest, in the oilomas, is kolu b'madrega elyoino. Ve'eich shehu shom be'ilu yoser. Ukemoi, eich shekol nimtzoim deila ma'asiyah, nimtzoim klulim b'yitziro. Ve'shom heim ha'gavoyim b'ma'alosom. V'ainu sheheim b'madregas asiyah. Ein ze ma sheyitzira yehu moker asiyah. Rak, the kemoisha nimtzoim klulim b'yitzira, heim b'mayla gavoya yoisa. Well, you do it, maybe it's kedai we should be moisef another line or two. You do a mavua b'mokim acher, da shogas anivro, shemasi gumis beinem bozeh, eich shehu nimtzo b'madrega gavoya mimeno, היינו בשוער שוי ומקוירוי ואיפה מציאוסי שום הרי זה פועל בוי ביטל פנימי יסע מהביטל במדרגס עצמי במדרגס שהוא ועל ידי זה הוא מסלל למיילס ומדרגה העליונה. And through that he actually goes up and he becomes shy to that מדרגה העליונה ואין משהו כזה בקונצוס העבודה Be'inin is Kalos Nefesh Baruch Beneshama. Everybody familiar with the Kuntzah, that's right at the beginning. It's much the first Inyan, Hamavur, and Kuntzah, the way the Mamish Betchilah. So, was it the Inyan that is Mizbainen Eik Inyan Nimtzoim Klulim B'Madrega Elyoina Yisa, and he brings the Dugma and nimtzoim, avodah ma'asiyah, nimtzoim klulim b'yitzira. And then he writes in brackets, De'ein ze ma sheyitzira u moker l'asiyah. Rak, k'mo nimtzoim klulim b'yitzira, ein b'mayla gavoya yesa. And then, kitzat l'mar b'sapele, use the expression that's mavua, mokim acher, when an Iver is masig ekshu b'shorshim makoyrei. We're not talking about how the inyonim from Asiya of how Yitzir is a shorshim mocher l'Asiya. We're talking about how inyonim from Asiya nimtzoim klulim b'Asiya b'Yitzir. The inyonim the nimtzoim of Asiya and nimtzoim klulim b'Yitzir. And he said that doesn't mean to say that Yeshua is not a mocker for us here. It is in certain ways, but not that's Ayin we're talking about here. So what are we talking about? How does it all fit together? The lady says 2 lines later that if you're mispointing in how you are b'shur and mekoyre, it was a dogma from what we just spoke. We were saying that Yeshua is not a mocker b'shur. What are we talking about? So we see that the inyan from his colorless doesn't necessarily mean that if you're kolol in a certain mokeh or of a certain inyan is kolol in a certain mokeh, that doesn't mean that that mokeh is necessarily mokeh v'sheresh, the music mokeh v'sheresh for where you are or what you are. Put it more exactly what you are, not maybe where you are, yeah. And so to give an example of the whole inyan, even though we say that midas from seichel live olo, but in a way, it's to a certain extent it's true to say that the midas from seichel are not really live olo. In a way they are, but maybe in another way they're not. They're krivim lies live olo. The beauty being that seichel is not midas. Seichel is before not midas. Midas is a seichel, and emes a seichel. It's got nothing to do with midas. And it's all shaykh midas before. How is it that we say they're midas b'seichel? Well, that's what we call a scholars. That the Eibishter made a seder that in all the inyanim of kedusha there's a scholars. There's also a scholars of midas b'toich seichel. But the shurish of midas is not seichel. The shurish of midas is is another mokeh of a shurish in the nefesh altogether. And for that matter, even bina and chokhmah are not. Chokhmah is not a mokeh of a shurish. For midas inyan from bina, bina's got its own shurish. But inyan inyan a keser, inyan a keser shel ma'ala mea seichel v'kol rotzen. That what midas are in seichel. It's not that seichel is a mokeh of a shurish for midas that they come out later into midas shebalev. No, the midas are klulim b'teich seichel, and that's what the Eibishter wanted. He wanted there should be as colorless of midas in seichel, and then those two types of midas they have a kesher one with the other. So they are maybe ilaval, and maybe the midas, we say that mokeh, ilaval, the seichel, midas, is not the pshat so much that the etzem meaning from seichel is a ila of midas. No, the midas sheba seichel, they are ila for the all. Ulai yesh shlomo boy from kozeh. But the very fact that there are midas in seichel, that's not to do with the seichel. That's ish colorless. And therefore, the midas that they are in seichel are mekabel in themselves the tchunas of seichel. They have certain elevations and what you might call abstractions what seichel has. Therefore, they're not the inyan from argosha kirvas elokim loi toiv. It's good for him, or li toiv. Well, I feel the etzem toiv of elikus of a seichel doesn't deal with the inyan from toiv from elikus. Doesn't deal with the benefit and the gishmach of elikus. What is elikus? Mahu elikus. The seichel and midas are two elements legamri nifrodim. That's what is pamela. The seichel, how the midas they are inside the seichel, are klulim in the seichel. And if your midas should believe manish, and you would appreciate how your midas is in seichel, then that would elevate you up, and you would lose your yeshes, and your feeling of our li toiv dvarim, and you would go up to be more interested in the toiv amiti shebahem, eishahim tzadatzmo. In other words, if let's say that the midas shebaseichel, or the midas are regilim midas shebalev, were to be masik and oile into the midas shebaseichel, then they would lose the hisrakshas halevovi, and they would be more, even from dak biyoter. And so we can't imagine sometimes such a inyan. And that's what he's mafara with the Kuntrus Haveda, Mashu Me'enze. That the different levels that they are, Vedas Adam, Kipshuto, and they're oiler, and they have an aliyah into a madrega which is higher than them, but it's in Inyonim which are klulim inside that higher madrega which are shy to them. Not necessarily that higher madrega is a mokia for the whole oilam in which they find themselves. That's a different thing. There is such a thing that it is a mokia for the whole oilam in which they find themselves. But not the fact that those particular inyonim have a shaykhs one with the other. No, they have a shaykhs mitzad what's called iskal. It's not mitzad the etzem minyan of the oilam being a mokia v'shuras lahem. So how is it that the union from Lamasha we say that Priya Yitzira Vasira are makoyers one to the other? It's much in certain places that they're even deliver all one for the other. Priya Yitzira Vasira. So that's the union from the Sphereship by him. In the Etzem Elakus, the Etzem Spheres, the Priya Yitzira Vasira. Well, that's the union from deliver all. Pink to see what the Alter Rebbe writes in the famous Iyuv Chayev that in the Spheres Atzmum there's Yilival, the Spheres Bein Ayim, there's a union from Amshocha Vagilui B'derech Yilival. And also from one oilam to the other, then the Yilival Spheres Animshech and Poyo Chad Bi Sheni B'derech Yilival. But the union from certain inyonim being Nimtsoim or Klulim B'derech Elyon, and then they're Nimshech in the Elam Tartain. Well, those inyonim have a different yachas one with the other, and that's only Ratzon Hashem that He wanted they should be klulim sham. Or they're no muchrachim liot sham. Ratzashim you klulim sham. I mean, it's these colors of madregas, then they're nimtoim sham, and they have a direct kesher one with the other. But that can also be in Azar even for kolev le'ilav ha'or or upon him makiv v'shorish zicha. It can be called. That's what the Rebbe said. That's what I say, that you, if you're, let's say, a nimto in Olam HaAsiyah, then you can be magish how those nimtoim are klulim be'olam HaYetzirah. And he said, that's not the Indian how Olam HaYetzirah is a moki v'shorish be'olam HaAsiyah. That's in Estes, that's in Hecher Inyonim. Over here, the Indian from certain Inyonim which are already b'derech yesh mi'ayin. If we're talking about the nimtoim, how they are in Olam HaAsiyah, then the way they're klulim in Olam HaBis is also not the malachim in Olam HaYetzirah. But there's a certain iskalulas of those nivroim in Olam HaYetzirah, terem iskalusam into Olam HaYetzirah mamish. Pink to say into Olam HaAsiyah mamish. Pink to say we say that the certain inyonim, but there are midas and other inyonim which are klulim in seichel, which are not really inyonim mamish. For example, we said that it's brought down in the Kuntzes Avedadot, in the what's it called that? Chalzo. The Kuntzes Chalzo, he brings down over there that there are certain inyonim klulim in Olam HaYetzirah, what that's in from Zman and Mokim and all sorts of inyonim, what they're be'ikah shaykh in Olam HaAsiyah. It's not always shaykh. Dealing from Mokim, Beklal in Olam HaYenim Yoter. And even the meaning of Zman is not in the way that we understand Zman. But nonetheless, there's a certain oifen of Iskalos of those in Yonim, and then they come down, and then Iskala in a lower, more mukshistic oifen in Olam HaAsiyah Mamish, Bepoyo. And Mameva in Olam HaBriya, if since Olam HaBriya is Yesh Mi'ayin, there's also certain iskalas of inyonim, chutz from the malachim, a certain iskalas of certain inyonim which are later going to be shy to nivroim b'poyo, because it's already the inyan, and if shari is hamatzi is already the inyan, and yesh mi'ayin mamish, kipshutay. Therefore, kumta is that each and every one of us, as a nimtor, has got a certain inyan, how he was kolol, not how the Olam's a mokir to the Olam where he is. No, he was kolol, but derech his kololus inside that Olam. If he was already be inside that Olam, then he's in a much higher heaven than he is down here. Because if he was like he is up there, then how they say they would throw him out. He couldn't be in that Olam, because he's gashmiya, he's magusha. But there's a certain even how that Indian is in Olam. Like we see. That rare individuals with their goofy mamish keep shooter into Gan Eden Atachtin or into Olam HaYetzirah. Moshe Rabbeinu went with he's kufin to Elam HaYetzirah. Noch is auch in Yonim. It's shaykh that the Nivroim can have a place, much higher and darkestic even inside the Elam HaElyon. Edify, says the Rebbe, if a mensch were to be misboina, how he is in that higher Olam, then that would make him legamri different than what he is actual, the way he is here. If you would be misboina, how he is really in the higher Olam. And that's what he says, that if you're misboina, Eikshu, B'madrega Voyim, and I know, Shoshu Makoiroi, Voyim Matziyusha Shalom. Now, we just said doesn't mean Shoshu Makoiroi. He means Shoshu Makoiroi means how you are. You as a Nivra are in that Olam. That's Shoshu Makoiroi. Not how the Olam B'klal is Shoshu Makoiroi, the Olam where you are. No, you're Shoshu Makoiroi, right, in that Olam. Then Oivim Matziyusha Shalom, how is a poil boy bittel pnim Yesa, Mertel b'madregas atzmei b'madregas you. He's got a lot of bittul, but if you just appreciate how he is, another oilam legamri lamaylam is there, then that has a tremendous effect. In fact, I really do belong there. I really do have a much higher bittul. Boilamahu is what am I doing messing around down here? Making a mess of it and being lost in all this yeses. They call it lichel cheshmachol zehoilom. And look at how it was up there. And I thought that's but let's just finish the sentence. Validei zeh hu misale la madrega elyon la milas u madrega hoelyon. Through that you really go up into that level. And remember, you live shukpam. We see that you go up into that. You don't stay the way you are. You manage to come. Elevated into a level which is v'aymash kos b'kuntzes aveda b'inyan ishkalas nefesh b'ruach uruach b'nishoma. But he writes over there that, for example, take the from Hoidoah. But the simple Hoidoah Pishuta, what I think from Moidani, B'tchilas Ayom, but I think in Klole was same as they call Madregan, that's like a sword, Moidani. Then there's certain in Yonim in Aveda which are B'derech Hoidoah. We can't really be massing them, but we're Moida Shekeinu, Moidi Manachno. He said somebody called speak about Yichud Tator. Then his Yediyas in Elam, in Yichud Eloah, despite that they might be detailed, are B'derech Hoidoah. Because he's not really massing the immediate in Yichud Eloah. And therefore, he's got a Hoidoah, like Gabi said. As if we could go up into Overmela, that's called Hoidoah. That goes up into, let's say, into Ruach, what Ruach is a Ayin from Midas, or that type of Hoidoah in certain madregas that he had, how it was in Nefesh, but that's purely Hoidoah. If he goes up into Ruach, where there's already Ayin from Avos Hashem and other Ayin on him, then those Hoidoahs become edler, more darkistic. Instead of just being moed or lagamri, there is such a thing as Yichud Eloah. He begins to have a certain haroshim was a touch, the bittul from Yichud Eloah. And then Vedas Anishama, that's an Elam Abriya, that's very close to Yichud Eloah Mamish. If not Yichud Eloah, because it's Mamish Ayin, Gila Ayin from Atzilus Kipshuta. He's Matai over there. That even though that remains Madregas Hoidoah, but it goes up into the higher level, then it's a much different type of Hoidoah. It's still Hoidoah. And then he said there's another type of Iskalos where it goes up into that Olam and it becomes Mamish as if in them Olam. And instead of being like a Dover coral in that Olam, it becomes Mamish Lefi even Ahu. It becomes like coral almost in the Etzim spiritual Olam. Not just being like a Nefesh and a Ruach and a Neshama, but it becomes Mamish Kol of the Etzim meaning for Shalaved Ha'olam Ha'u, even though it began and it's really shot to the infant Hoidoah, which is Nefesh, not to Midas, which is Ruach, or Neshama is much higher. And then he says there's certain Avas and certain years, what they go up and they become Mamish Asevi Moichin. They're still a form of a Midah, but they can become coral inside the clothes are Turkey for Moichin, and they lose the whole Hisrakshas part of it. They become Mamish Korol in Moichin. and therefore that's the union when midas they go up. So they're still midas, but they're what you might call involved and swept into the whole Indian how it is boilam ahu. And then he brings it towards the end of that whole chapter, the Mechaber, that he writes that sometimes it can become mamish as if they're regular. It's hard to separate and say that that's really a Siyah, how it's called in Ruach, or how it's called Adar, how it's called in Ruach, or Nefesh, how it's called in Ruach. It mamish becomes Kilo Nikla in the whole Ilam of Ruach. It's very difficult to. So the only way you can know that it's how Nefesh came up into Ruach, or how Ilam HaSiyah came up into Ilam HaYetzirah, is the only way you can know is that it's like on a slightly low level. Instead of being Chagas, it's Nahi, or instead of being Moichen, it's Chagas. You say, oh yeah, well, that's poor Chagas, that really belonged once upon a time down there, but now it's up here. But it's inverted commas only Nahi. And so really the big Mahoy. So we see that Lafis there, these Inyonim can mamish lose their previous identity almost, and they become almost like the Ulamahu, or that Madregahu, as they state out in Quds Aveda. So it seems to me that one of the dugmois we can give to that is Ayin. It's not Olai Mamish dugma Kraver Medugdekis Bakola Protim, or upon him it's a dugma. Is we find in many places that to be poil a beetle in the Nefesh Abami is the Iker of Birchas Krishma, the brachas of Krishma, up to Krishma, the Iker Sipur Barichas daughter, the Inan Amalochim, is in order to be poil a beetle in the Nefesh Abami. Was it a pshat? The Psuchi de Zimra is what we call Chakich Chitoina, Chakich Mebachutz. It's also a hoich in Yonim, but that because it's so hoich, it causes a closed kapitel. But Ilul ben Birchas Krishma, we tell about things which are close at home, about the Malachim, man, boy, hocha, in a Malachim. You come in ahead of Malachim, what is it interesting to the Nefesh Elokis, all this business about the Malachim? What's it try to get into Tefillah? So it's brought down the beer and sitters, but that's the way to get really to the Nefesh Abami, is to really shake him, but Panimias, not just in a general chitainistic way like it is in Psuchi de Zimra, is you have to be Mizboinen in his Mokiv Ashurish, how he is in Olam HaYetzirah Ulai B'Olam HaBriya. No? And in the Malachim, that's the Shurish of the Nefesh Abami. Just that he was Yer, but Derech Shtauselus Rabbim, till he became not Chayas HaKodesh, but he became Chayas Kipshuta. But if you take him up and he's Mizboinen, what he really is like in Olam where he's Mokiv Ashurish, then that's Poyel, and the Nefesh Abami is a bittul Pnimi v'atzmi, that he misboin, and how he really is, bim koireva shoy. That's what we're trying to say here. That every Indian in this world, like it's brought down at the Tana girl, for example, that the Tana girl was straight to B'chatzei Shlayla. He's really got a mock of a sherish in Bina Datzila, as if it was, and then in Olam HaBriya, the Tana girl mamish, he's there. In Olam HaYetzirah, Olam HaBriya. I forget, what's Shreita? Why does he give a Shrei? Because the Chatzei Shlayla is a very high moment. Is Mitamol, he gets some, I will give the Yinulei Chazi, Mazlei Chazi, he gets a picture of what he really is, a Gitar Shrei. The same with the Nefesh Abami is. The Nefesh Abami is here, where he really comes from. So what am I doing being Marimo? Master. What does I know from the Union? Why it's Barashko? Derecham Beis Krishma, the Elam Rash, the Bissel Merov, and under Kolokia Tfila. What is it outside? That's time of Torah. So I remember once I heard a man, but it seemed to me that was like a Tugma Teva from them meaning that once I heard from a Yid by the Rebbe, Years ago when the river first started with the Meftoim, way back, he went out to the east side. Is there any east side now? I don't know if there is such a thing anymore. There's still east side over there. I don't know if there's a Yiddish east side anymore. But anyway, there's a big east side, and you have a lot of these Yiddish, they come very early in the 20th century, they'd got into the parts of, and they had these Geschäften in the east side, all these little Yiddish Geschäfte on the east side. So anyway, he comes into, he wants to be Makarav to Yiddish guy, walks into one of these shops, on the east side. It's a little store, and he sells out what he's clear with. So he invites him in, and he starts talking to him about maybe put on tefillin, about often some reading material, something about Yiddish guy. He said, "Oh, yours." He said, "Oh, yours." He said, "Come here." He said, "I want to show you something." So he takes him behind. There was like a curtain, there's a hand curtain, and that's where these little stickler, a kettle to make yourself close, a little frigidaire maybe, and a little bit of mazzina or something. But if you stick it like that was behind the curtain, so all behind the curtain, and tuck a little sticker like a hen, a kettle, or two is the end. All of a sudden, this big, very impressive picture of Gurv Sahilach Yid, if you see upside. A Rebbichke, Yid, I'm so hungry, so a kid, he says, sister, dem Juden, das ist mein Seide. He said, das ist mein Seide. So, he just looked at the I didn't even see it. He had a kippah on there, he didn't look particularly, he said, from, so he says, my boy, what do you need that? What should do this in your shop? You look as if you drifted off the path of it, What are you doing there? That's our build, behind the curtain, He said, he had the small, there's not a great deal doing in the shop. He said, I live behind the curtain. He said, I give a cook off money. Demands of, where is mein Seiden? Oh, he said, die Cook is, das ist mein Seide. So, der Mamere, wenn ich sehe, die alle Sachen da, is that they can't fallen, He said, I don't fall completely, they all come in. I see the ganze goyische Gas, when the ganze do is mit der, so, die ich nicht, die ich fallen is, that the Fabu is. He said, I cook off mein Seiden. Isn't that an amazing story? Ze zei, hoe is je wel zo? Anton Tschön, gezondheid, Anton Tschön, is toch gewaardig goed, is toch zeggen goed, Anton Tschön, nog was niet. En de zijde zal kicken. What do we see from that? That if you remind yourself of your mochi v'shoiros, and what you were really like in your mochi, as it were, how you really shy to your zayda, that saves you. That makes you a different person. You become like that. You understand? You become like that. So he was never a bisschen weit, he's just saying, gefallen ein bisschen in Elam, wie man sagt, Elam Apir. Der Seid hat ihm gehalten. So the same idea that if you're misbeinen, wie das ist in Mochi V'Shoresh, then if you're an idol and you're into the then you go up and you become like that. You become nichlal in how you are on a higher madrega. You're still what you are. You're still ruach, or you're still nefesh. But your nefesh, you're inside ruach. You understand? Your nefesh, you're kol up there in ruach. You're not the same type of nefesh. It's not the same. Portion to hoidusa. A dak is in a more elevated, a more bittel dike hoidusa. It's a pretty stuff. He says that if you picture yourself how you are in Hecher Adar years before you became Mamish Mishkala V'Zeho, he said that makes you Ayin. You become a bit like that. No matter your whole of your whole form of Beetle and Aveda become because similar to the point that we made earlier. Slightly different. Even you hear how you are in your higher state. Why should you be not like that? At a higher state, that's just going to remain like I'm going to fall away from my higher state. let's unite with how I was and how I really am. So the Rebbe said, if you do that, you really like that.
How is this? How is that jive? How does that go together with Roimimus Hakel, the Shifrus Haba?
No, I don't have Roimimus Hakel. You were talking about your shares in the higher realm. The Eibishter remains always a Roimimus Hakel.
That's the same.
It's a delikus. What we're saying is that's a dog moving. That those things which in higher realm is, they're more shat to Roimimus Hakel. So we should Edel Yid. Why did he look like what he did? Because he was shot to Roimimus Hakel.
Afterwards, there shouldn't be a place for
Adam. Where Vinzik is shot to Roimimus Hakel, we're down here. But if I get up into Azamitzot Oifen, then I'll have a much bigger idea what it is Roimimus Hakel. And that's what he said. The Aveda and the Beetle is in a much higher.
But what place is there for Shifrus Ha'adam after that?
Plenty of place for Shifrus Ha'adam. Plenty of place. It's only the wrong out of clue, but I have to leave. There's still the wrong never. A Shifrus Ha'adam is I feel it's the Ruchkuchen Atzilas. I say, Adam, Ha'elien is Godish, like we Aachen, like we Lamal mit Jimson. Yesa, the state of Yesa ain't a reich. Yeah, Atzilas, like we Lamal mit Atzilas, Atzilas, like we Bia. Problem. Shifrus Ha'adam is allemaal. Maar het ook maken met die van mens. We zijn gewoon pakken als Adam. En dan is dat de Shifrus Ha'adam. Otherwise you just Shifrus Klat. Ja, wel, aber klar ist, als Saga, wie es Bonnen ist, said the Rebbe. But klar is, we go now on a general way. In other words, up to now we've been talking in certain specific inyanim. But it closes our saga with bonus. Ik zou er ga je zelf kiezen, ga je koloïmanes van die vrouwen. Hoe je eigen hoe elikus. We said so. The is color the close is bonus. The chap, as you might say, which shot to this whole concept of continuous this whole idea of the relativity of the inyanim. That the picture in that is. How the earth Chayzer Ki is Mechaya over the elements, who Elikus. In other words, that if not the Chayzer Ki, there's not really anything to talk about. If I make a place your mind in the Ike will be a tough. Validate calls there. Yeah, Miseira, yeah, Ha'ava, between Kilo with Dweke is Elikus. שכל חפצה ורציינו הוא רק בלכוס. או שיהיה גילה. That's very interesting. There's two inyanim, and it's brought down in the Kutta Terra becoming Makimas, Benegel, that the immediate inyan, how it is, mitad pnimis atar, or mitad chasidus, and not just that you have a chayfet, you have been alidei avidoscha, you've been megala a certain inyan, or you've come to a certain inyan, misale, into a certain darge, and Mamela you have a chayfet, you have a chayfet linyan ahu, and that's mo'era b'chor, and it's poiseach shiorim to a chayfet b'kol inyan elikus. He said, but that's not the inyan for Chassidus. That's not the inyan of what you're encouraged to do. You get to chayfet v'tshuk elikus, no, we must this is fine. And that's tremendous. And halavai, that how do they say, for alle Yidden gewünscht. Whatever has to be, if you have emes a chayfetz in elikus, what you might call almost the testing ground that you have a emes a chayfetz that you want gil elikus. That not just for yourself, you want it should be gil elikus, but in other words, that if you have emes a oyev, ahava, then what is ahava is the oyev wants what the nehav wants. That's the emes inivanav, so. You have tshuka, dveikes, geschmack in elikus. That's all you. That's not. Immediately, the ahava has to derare. What is the I'm tremendously devoted to Hashem, but what does that mean? What am I supposed to do about that? How do I express my devotion? Just the fact that I have a geschmack in understanding Him. It should be the ear from Kila Elakus. In other words, that if I hear the pneumias of Elakus, I hear the Kavana, I hear Wujud Dusman. And that's all Deravidin from Rotze Vashoy. It's Guiva on the whole concept of Rotze Vashoy. And I've heard, says the Rebbe that who rocked Elakus, and Kivan Chekain, she Kila Elakus. But Badera Cloud is who Mash Omar Kosu, or this whole Ayin. That the whole Indian way of Chayes keep oilums and the Ik is the Elakus. Who Masha Oma Hakosu Leavois Hashem Alkecha Ki Hu Chayecha. In other words, the whole Indian Chitanias Alei. Even if you want Gil Elakus, also because if you want, that's your, you're a whole Mechutn in the Indian. You've got a Chayfetz and you're a Soge. You understood and you're full of it, and now you want that should be Begolia. This will be Nikah. The whole Indian van Elakus. So it's all Avos Hashem Alkecha Ki Hu Chayecha. You love the Eibusha because he's all your whole life. So in the like a teach in Geras HaKodesh in Simon Dal, the Alter teaches a slightly different idea. Do teach there Laman Chayecha, it's under Pasuk. He said, there's Laman Chayecha, it's Laman Ki Hu Ko Chayecha. It's a similar idea, but don't touch this in more from Lamayla Medida Varbal, more needed from Mesilas Nefesh. V'hainu, he said, Kamosha Odam Oyev Chaye Nafshoi, Kain Mashiach Beinan Shoyrein Seif Hu Chay HaChayim, Elyonim V'Atachteinim, Umechalchel Chayim B'Chesed. That he understands, first of all, that the Eibishter is Chaya Chayim. In other words, Chaya Chayim in Chassidus is indicatory more of the Makif and the Havdalah. Chay HaChayim, he's the Chaya of the whole Chayim. But, in Mamela, it's to a certain extent, Shova Elyonim V'Tachteinim. He's Chaya Chayim of Elyonim V'Tachteinim. But, in addition to that, Machalchel Chayim B'Chesed. What does we say in Shemar Esrei? So he said, what's the Yinyan there? Pirush Machalchel Chayim. He said, Ushanim Shebchinas Chesed. It comes from the Eibishter, from the Yinyan of Chesed, how it is Mitzad HaTzmusa Yisbarach, Chesed Atzilas, or Mailam Zeh, Rav Chesed. But it comes in such a way, B'chinas Chayim L'chol Chay, it becomes a Chayim into each individual Chai. How does that happen? How does it become Chaya Chayim and then becomes Chay L'chol Chay? How does that happen? Al Yidei Shehu Yisbarach Machalchel, the end of Machalchel Chayim. So what is that? So he said, Machalchel is on B'Kli Toich Kli, Machalchel Chayim. That he gives one Kli inside the other. Ad Shenim Shechayis L'Kol Protei Nivroim Debiyah. In other words, the Inyan from Chay HaChayim, that's a Machiv. That's like he says that the Inyan from Seiv does the Chayis HaIkri. You come over in time. At least two places. But then there's Machal Kel Chayim B'Chesed, there's more. And that's how the Chesed Elyon do it. Chesed, that's how he wants to give the Shefa to the Tach. That's Kilo, the divine Gishmak in giving the Shefa Ramata. Well, that's Chesed. Remember, Mitzad Chesed, we find a way to give it to every Indian according to his Indian. And therefore the Eibus is prepared to Kaviyah be Toreach, you have to have this Chaim for that level. And then he goes from that Kli and take another Kli, from that Kli inside another Kli. Machal Kel is Miloshin, Kli B'toch Kli, and it's Nimshuk to call a Proteum Niroim Debiyah. And Bamila, what are the ties from all that? That you see that you matter Lamaila. In other words, I would say the way to touch that piece is that everybody likes to feel that he matters. Everybody likes to feel that he's important. That he's valuable, that somebody is looking after him, somebody bothers about him. So that's what the Rebbe said. The Eibishter is Chaya Chayim. He could have left it at that. No, he's Machal Chel Chayim. He comes down, he goes from one Kli to another, and he's all the Yinonim in Pnimius, as Nimshik L'chol Echad Ve'echad. And you are important, you also. The Eibishter gets Chokmah special for your Kli and your Yinonim. Amamira Mitzadat, but that's Ma'ira Ayin from Kiruvan, Dveikis, at the Elikus. When you misbein in all of these inyanim, that part, and then we saw the previous part, was more in the whole inyan and Ayin, go from one inyan and understand how you're going to hire oil and Ayin, and all of these different inyanim, all of them together. But that's a mabat, proti kloli of the whole inyan from Chitzayni Asalei. The kashi is bein and bechol zeh hodik eite v'amochis adas. Or befat kashem is bein bo even achayis. Even achayis. Remember we said earlier that each elam's got a different type of manner of the gila achayis, like chokhmah or bina and all those inyanim. Tigdal etzlei ha'avel adavke b'yisbara. It's a different pratim, but they all add up to the same idea that each of these inyanim, lefi inyane, awakens and adds what you might call kindling to the fire of wanting to be close and wanting to be dovek in Elikus. Amamele, that's a inyan from tshuka to be dovek in the nehav. Kashi is beinen, befat kashi is bein bein nachar. Now tigdal it's like aval adovke b'yisbara. Sure. For whole zeh, we've been
discussing two types of hisboninus. Generally, two types of hisboninus.
Oh, there's been several different types. We've spoken about several different ifanim in the hisboninus.
Without any connection.
But all these hisboninus are all shy to how the Elikus relates to the nivra. If you look carefully, you'll see it. They're all how each one of them. Its purpose is to give rise to those inyanim and to be machayah them and to bring them, to elevate you, that you can have a higher form of chayas. It's all got to do with how you are b'negei Elikus. So when you see you're important, then you have an av. When you see you're being cared about, you're being worried about, then you have an av. So kol zeh in other words, it's a fire, it's a aish, it consumes, but it's still chitzenius, it's still out in the azora. It's not mamish b'teich ha'hechel, not b'pnimis. So therefore he said, Ayin beginners pnimis alev zinyan aktoides. Pirush aktoides urosh nishkashros. Who in iskashros achmi? Everything's iskashros. Av is not iskashros, but he said the word keteres itself is iskashros. The word keteres means iskashros. So we must be talking about something very miyuchad in iskashros. She said, enochanami. It means a mitis iskashros, which means how the etzem is makusha to the etzem. I know she'ava enorak mitzad isbonenes ki mitzad achmi is anishoma. Shemakusheret ba'ir say poroch. So he said in the inyan from Keteres, well, see as we go along, it's not that you don't use your moya, it's not that you don't use the kishrenas that you have to be mizboina, but you're not looking to things to understand. You're not looking to appreciate things. You're looking to use your understanding to get you in somewhere else. In other words, you're using your understanding almanas, how do they say, arang krichen in epsa nochazach. In other words, to get your understanding is like warming up the fire a little bit, but then you're going to spring with the flame into nochazach, ain't it all together. In other words, you're really looking for the atzmi. You're looking for iskashas, the yetzim b'toich ha'yetzim. Well, since you're in this world and you're meruchak, b'lavavim elikus, there's got to be a way of getting in. You got to lift yourself up in a way that you can get into that yetzim, because you're down in all the what you might call the yinonim anifra. So in the first statement, you still remain a nifra, but gora gishmach and a kosher nifra. But you're still as you and as elikus. You see, there's a Chayim, he's got me in a Hecher Madrega, I can get there if I want, it's all sorts of high inyonim, but so close of it, how do you call it? He, how do they say, me and him, was up there. But here you're looking to find only him and how you're just going to become bottling him, how you'll become nichla. You'll be like, as it were, a chelik van him. You'll be inside him. Listen, with the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perigutes, Afopi, the Shom wants to go up, go into a church, Afopi should tish battle Shom, the Lord Tishoya me, Mahusa, Vatsmusa, Harishoin. You'll still have something, but it won't be Vatsmusa, Mahusa, Harishoin that she had before. Mashu Meinze. He's looking to get lunch. Makusha. He doesn't want to just go out. He's not allowed to do that. He's got something to do down here. But he wants to be joined up in that way, and then he'll see what he's got to do. That was a concern it was with Avtal. Why do I say that? Because he brings you immediately Rashbi. So I said, Rashbi. You might say after about 1,000 different biurim, you say, well, now you'll understand Rashbi. No, life with the honors. You got to know what Rashbi was up to. Okay, Rashbi, Bechad Katira is Katana. I was tied up with one knot. Yeah, Beyachida, Bey Lahita. I was joined up to him, and I was flamed in him. I came like one fire with him. Shehu one. Beyachida ubey lahita bey. Shehu is kashish l'mayla mina seicho. Yeah. So he said it was Rashbi. No word then. Rashbi, he tried to get away with it, and the Abish didn't let him. He sat for 12 years in the mine, and he came out. He looked all this well, and he burned him up and didn't do it. And he said, I only want the highest in Yonim, and forget all this stuff with this world. So he said, I say, go back here. So he had to be there for another year, and then he came out. Then they said, oh, now we can make a shoot. So everywhere he looked, he saw something. He needed a tikkun and he needed a refuah. In other words, Rashbi realized that with the Chad Katira, with all those in you got to come down here and then find out what do I have to do now. I got this unbelievable iskashas. I got this unbelievable Ahav Bli Shum Hagbara Klau. What am I going to do with it? So therefore, it brings the dogma from Rashbi gleich in onwards. But you got to realize that here in these Maimorim, we're not we're not playing around. Ketores is not a Shein Azah. Ketores is just another way to know how to carry out the Kavona Gor of a Goyim Namoiv. In other words, if you're tied up in Azam, you know even we can demand of you all day. Come and monov and dear me or them. That's what he's going to say. He said, that's a Yin from Rashbi, what he said, Chad Katira is Katana by Chida by Lahita, and he said, Gamkein Alides Bon starts with his boniness, but it's only in order to get, it's looking to get beyond that. And the whole reason why we have the Yin from the, like we see, the Isbonis, because we are down in this world, in order to make the way up, you've got to go through the Isbonis. Not that you intend Klaus stopping with these. It's another attitude altogether.
But is it from the Chad Katira that we learn that?
No, Chad Katira means that I was bound up with one knot. In Katana, I was tied with a knot, with one knot only. In other words, he was tied up with the Etzem Anishon.
So it's from there that Katoris is Loshen his kashrus.
It's a Katoris from that Loshen Katoris. Loshen Kitana. That's Loshen Kesha. In Aramic, the word Keturas means a Kesha.
Ketura. Rashi brings on
Ketura. Yeah. Rashi said, Benagel, Ketura. Shayim a Kesha. Yeah, the tied up a woman.
So we're learning it out from Aramit?
Huh?
We're learning it out from Aramit that Keturas is Loshen his kashrut.
Huh?
It's not Loshen Kodesh, it's Aramit that you're learning out.
Yeah. That's it's well known that the word Keturas, Ika Shershi is really an Aramic root. And many of the words in Loshen Kodesh like that. In other words, what the Aramic did was just sort of take the shores and use it as a more easy way to talk to people. So, in other words, the Aramic is not just something that dreamt up, hidden inside the Loshen Kodesh was anyway. Therefore, Al Pi Kabbalah, the Aramic is like even Klippus Neiger, so he shot to it's a little bit not. The whole beer. But again, so. That's in van the Avo Al Pitam V'Das, where the two inyonim, and they join up through the Ava. The Ava Keteris is that really the Ava is not anymore an Ava. It's only in order to join you up with the Etzem. Once you joined into the Etzem, then it's a different story altogether. And why is it called a Kesha? A Kesha indicates like two inyonim. So there's a beer, that's what all big beer from the Rebbe. Also from the Rebbe Rashab. Therefore he adds Beyachida, Beylahita. It wasn't just stomach kesh like two things, but it becomes like one union in the kesh kuva, and it becomes like a fire, becomes completely self-consuming. So the whole point of the Av is only to lead into a oneness. There's Ein lahafrish or lahavdil ben zelazeh. That's all I do. Chad Ketira. Good. Okay, guys. So, let's get cracking. I'm not tired. We're finished. I was sure for about 40 minutes. Some guys come and learn some Tanya 3 times a week. And we learned a bit of Tanya this morning. About Tuesday, I got to this. We learned a bit. And then I just said to them, why did Moshiach not come after this has been revealed into the world? How can the world just be the same? It has to be a different world. The Alter blew the whole world apart with the Tanya. It's all different. It's all hafuch. Hivino, Adasmano. Isabella, the explosion already occurred. The Big Bang already happened. The scholars at the Tanya and then the Teres Achsidus, the Rebbeim. Just think about each Rebbe, what's a Tugi Tanya in the world. And the Rebbe is Koyro Kolomadregis with Teichans. If I ask straight and they can't take it. You can't say it. Everything's been revealed. It's all there. It's in a even. And it's there in a way that everybody can get to it. You can't say it. Feel to the place. When you think about it. Therefore, the Rebbe writes in so that Yechiamot, that in that Sikha, that's a Tate Mio Plia Atzuma and Madur Mashiach Hodoitzkar. Tmir Plia Gedela Atzuma. Madur Mashiach Hodoitzkar. Oh yeah. Oh, the more you understand a piece of Chassidus like this, you see what it's really about. So that's when you get the question. So that he knew all of Chassidus, he knew all the niggas, and he was called all of it. He couldn't take it. I was there at Shabbos, Mem Hayel, and the Rebbe shouted the 3 times. With his hand. It's only years later we begin to really cop what was really going on. And the interesting is that when I learn a piece of Beis, or when I hear of Shmek Tabik from what the Tanya is trying to say to us, all of a sudden you get this, almost like rings into your ears. You begin to sort of hop what's really going on. Had most high.
Take him out.
So have a good evening.
No, it's
Asia Arab, you over here.